Are you looking to grow your dental practice and attract top-tier new patients? Discover the potential of digital marketing with a personalized strategy session. Join Lila Stone, the marketing director at Equa, for an exclusive 90-minute consultation. Lila and her team will dedicate 6 hours before your meeting to create a customized marketing plan specifically for your practice. This valuable opportunity is free of charge and comes with no commitments. Visit www.insuranceuntangledorg/MSM to schedule your meeting with Lila today. You'll also receive a free analysis report so you can start transforming your practice through the power of digital marketing.
You are now listening to another episode of the Insurance Untangled Podcast, where we explore the various challenges faced by dental practices due to their reliance on insurance. Join us in this podcast as we dive deep into the issues surrounding dental insurance dependence and offer practical solutions and strategies to help you take control of your practice's financial future.
Today, we're going beyond insurance verification to talk about something that shapes the financial health of every dental practice: the daily habits, internal structures, and operational discipline that either protect your revenue or slowly let it slip away. Welcome to the Insurance Untangled Podcast. I'm your host, Don Adeesha. It's great to have you here. Now, most owners assume that revenue leakage is mostly about insurance issues. But the truth is, some of the largest losses happen inside the practice through unclear roles, unchecked adjustments, inconsistent procedures, and missed patterns of behavior that nobody catches on until it's too late. So joining us today is Courtney Staiger. Courtney is a senior fraud examiner at Profitability, the world's oldest and largest firm specializing in investigating financial crimes and embezzlement within dental practices. With a deep background in dental practice operations, Courtney has transitioned from the front lines of office management to the forensic side of the industry. She is a recognized authority on revenue cycle management, internal controls, and identifying the red flags that signal financial leakage or mismanagement. Now, at Insurance Untangled, we believe stronger systems create stronger practices. If you're ready to improve growth, visibility, and long-term performance, be sure to book a marketing strategy meeting with Equa Marketing through our website, insuranceuntangledorg/MSM. I'll repeat that one more time, insuranceuntangledorg/MSM. And get real clarity on the digital side of things. Courtney, with all of that being said, Courtney, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to share what I'm, excited about, and hopefully other people are excited about to hear too.
Absolutely. Now, Courtney, before we get into the main discussion of things, I cannot help but bring back a number we were just talking about, 70%. What is that number?
The number of practices that have been stolen from or will be stolen from, and not just individual practices. It affects DSOs. It doesn't discriminate against type of practice, specialty, general, doesn't discriminate. 70% of practices have been or will be embezzled from.
Wow. All right. Now, I wanted to open up with that because this is not something that we necessarily think about immediately when we're thinking about leakage, right?
No. A lot of people, processes are definitely part of it, but embezzlement and fraud don't come to the top of people's mind when it comes to revenue leakage. But it's real, and it's probably the most expensive revenue leakage there is. Most fraud and embezzlement is not uncovered for at least a year, if not more. We're lucky if we catch somebody within the first year. Many of the cases I receive and doctors that I talk to, the people who are committing, these unfortunate acts have been employed for them 5+ years. Some of them, 20, they're getting ready to retire from them. And, the doctor doesn't have a retirement, but that employee sure does. So, it's a long game, right? It's not something that happens quickly over time and is noticed quickly. It's a very, very long, drawn out process.
So, Courtney, most practices think of revenue leakage as an insurance problem. What hidden leaks exist beyond insurance verification that owners often overlook?
So yes, there are definitely leakages. I mean, insurance verification is important, right? I will never discredit that. That's gaining that information. That's absolutely important. But that's actually not a majority of where the revenue leakage comes in from, believe it or not. A lot of the revenue leakage comes in after the fact. It's after the patients come in. It's not collecting copays. Believe it or not, taking a look at your AR, seeing if things, were actually collected when they were supposed to be. It is missing documentation. I can't count on my hand how many times, I've gone into a practice, taken a look to see, all right, what's going on? Why are we not get paid? And it's simply because there's missing documentation. The clinical notes don't give a diagnosis. They don't give health history. They don't tell why this procedure was needed. It just says, did a crown, did a filling. Phenomenal. I'm so glad you did those. Awesome. And they don't give the meat of what's needed to explain why this was done for the patient. And it's not just, it shouldn't be just done in, essential situations. It should be done in all situations. When you're sending, things to insurance, and that's another thing that gets missed is attachments. Are your staff trained on the appropriate attachments to send? Has the claim become, dead because it just didn't get sent with what was needed to be paid correctly? Essentially, we're sending insurance of small snapshot in time, right? And I don't want to be like, insurance dictates what you do. It absolutely should not dictate what you do. But they don't have the benefit of looking in the patient's mouth like you do. They're not looking at it. They're not looking at the entire ledger. They're not looking at your entire, history of notes. They're looking at 3 to 5 sentences, and they're having to make a determination based upon those 3 to 5 sentences. And so it really starts from the clinician side of it, right? Clinicians need to give what is necessary in order for those to get paid. And then your front office staff, or whoever's sending your insurance claims, they need to understand what needs to go with it. Is there perio charting that needs to go with it? Do you need to send a pre-op and post-op? Do you need a photograph? Because, let's talk about cracked tooth syndrome, right? Like sometimes just saying like they have cold sensitivity is not enough. Show that fracture, put that explorer in there and be like, that's a fracture, that happened in terms of that. So really painting the picture is where a lot of it comes. And then let's just talk about the stale claims, timely filing. I would love to believe in a great world, all of our claims get sent out the next day, or within 24 hours of it. But the truth of the matter is they get missed, we're not perfect. We're human. There's going to be error. Stale claims happen. Failure to follow up within a certain time frame. You find out, oh my gosh, that patient's insurance, was not valid, and so by the time you get that information back from the patient, timely filing may apply. Some of them are very short. Some of them can be, 30 to 60 days if you're dealing with like Medicaid, Medicare. Some of them can be longer, 6 months to a year, but those things can cause stale claims and they can cause you to not get paid for hard-earned work that you've already done.
That's right. Now, from your time in the front desk office before you came the great fraud examiner, how long did it take for you to get the machine, well oiled with the clinician really understanding what the front desk needs, and then of course the front desk also doing a bit of a check, a bit of a verification before sending them in?
It took me about 90 days to get a well-oiled machine going. And most people, are like, wow, 90 days. That's actually relatively quick in the scheme, right? Like you've been doing something the same way for 10 years, and I'm coming and I'm asking you to do something completely different than your norm. What is it, like 3 weeks to build a habit, and then you have to do that, so we started off with, the basics, right? Like we started off with like when they were doing hygiene, kind of stuff. Like, let's start there. That's where a lot of your volume comes in, is through hygiene. So we started there, educating that part of it. making sure that when they were going in, giving those hygiene exams, that they were giving me what I needed during that. And then we were able to build onto that. Obviously, you're going to come across wild things that only happen once in a lifetime. And like, funny enough, my specialty happens to be getting veneers paid. Most people are like, veneers are never paid. My specialty was getting them paid because I would say, listen, sometimes veneers are necessary, right? Like you've got peg laterals that are, people come in with peg laterals. People have fractured their tooth, but to do an entire crown prep would be more damaging to the tooth than to do a veneer. Sometimes you're needing to maintain space because they just finished orthodontics, and not having one might cause a collapse of the bite. And so these are the kinds of conversations that I would be having with my clinicians is explain that to me. Explain why, not doing something is damaging. Explain why doing something more would be damaging. And so it's not just why you did what you did, but why you didn't do the others also.
And then you would note that into the documentation, is it?
Put it in the clinical chart, in the clinical notations. And that's the other thing too, right? Most people think when they think narrative, they think, oh, I need to come up with this, or front office. Actually, you're not the narrative. And I hope that nobody here is listening is submitting a narrative on their behalf. NADP last year actually made a clarification during one of their meetings. Somebody said, let's be clear, when you're asking narrative, are you asking for the chart note? And they said, yes, that is what they are asking for, is the chart note. So they call it narrative. It's your chart note. It's the notation of what happened during that visit. And that's something that put in there. So it's really a calibration between the front office and the back office. It's a calibration of, here's common, denial reasons that I'm seeing. Here is what they're asking me for. Here's what I'm needing you to give me. And I really recommend, at a minimum, calibrate every, 90 days, making sure that you're getting what you need. Sometimes, you need to do that a little more frequently, but do calibrate because definitions change, guidelines change, requirements change. So make sure that you're calibrating on a regular basis to ensure that you're getting what you need. And also understanding what insurance needs as well. Like, for instance, an insurance who shall not be named is notorious for saying, we will not, pay for scaling and root planings unless they're 5 and 6s. But another insurance is like, well, we'll take 4s and 5s. So again, it doesn't mean don't do what the definition is. It means understand that what is needed in order to get this claim paid by insurance. Are you collecting from insurance? Or are you collecting from the patient?
Check. So really, some of the other missing leaks that we got going on over here, definitely missing documentation, stale claims. But of course, this can be fixed if you intentionally take about 90 days to oil the machine and calibrate.
Absolutely. Yes. And notation of like those common reasons and denials, why they're asking for, what kind of claims are you getting that they're asking for more information on? Create a list of that. What kind of claims are you seeing? Another insurance is notorious, like you can't, do a buildup on the same day as a crown seat unless you call in and give the date. And that's the other thing too, right? Is understanding, like, let's talk about crowns for a second. Some insurance pay on, seat date. Some of them pay on prep date. Understand those and understand when you need to bill, how you need to provide the information to them. If you're billing an insurance that says I pay on seat date, you can bill it on prep date, but you need to be very clear. This is a prep date. Do not try to deceive them and state that this is when you delivered it, because that's actually fraudulent in nature, right? Like, that's not when you delivered the crown. So you need to be clear and stating, I started this today. And then when you finish it, you need to follow up with that. And you need to say, I finished this today. Please send my payment to them. So knowing what that is to prevent that revenue leakage and to stop that from hanging in the system to begin with is honestly, that's going to solve a lot of those problems of revenue leakage.
Absolutely. And that right there perhaps is something that is being done mistakenly.
Absolutely. And I just realized there's one I even forgot about. And that's procedures that have been done and that just don't get billed out. In terms of revenue leakage. I was like, I just realized because I was just thinking about an office I just had a conversation with. They were taking PAs and, during a hygiene check, and they were not billing them out. They weren't letting the front office know. It might only be $20. Add that $20 up over time. That's quite a bit of money that you might be losing just by not billing out procedures that were done.
Absolutely. What a great starter to this conversation here, Courtney. Now, you often talk about the importance of daily reconciliation mindset. Well,
Yes.
what does that actually look
Why?
like inside of practice? Why?
So daily reconciliation, excuse me, like there's a couple of different daily reconciliations I recommend. The first one is as a provider, reconciling, just talked about missing procedures, taking a look at that while it's fresh in your mind. Is this what I did today? Is this what I remembered doing? Did I do, 2 fillings on that person or 3 fillings? Was that a 2 surface or a 3 surface? If you're doing that, you're not going to have to do clean corrections later. You're going to be, make sure that you're getting all monies owed. And let's be honest, like at the end of the week, end of next month, I certainly do not remember what happened today. So do it while it's fresh. The faster you do it, the more accurate it's going to be. And it doesn't take but a couple of seconds to go through and look and see, yep, these are the procedures I did today. This is great. Close out the day. The second part of that is reconciling your money, what was collected. And that happens to do like revenue leakage as well. Oh my gosh, I forgot to collect a copay from this person. Well, rather than waiting 30, 60, 90 days, call them up right then and there. Mrs. Jones, I'm so sorry. I forgot to collect your copay while you're here. Can I go ahead and do that? So reconciling is so important for so many reasons. Reconciling, do the checks in your hand match the end of the day? Was something misposted? It's going to be much easier to fix it today than a week or 2 from now when you're trying to chase down that penny and you've done 7 other, large bulk runs. So reconciling every day, does apples equals apples every single day is going to be such a key thing in, maintaining efficiency. Like, honestly, that's what it is, maintaining efficiency. So it doesn't take long. It also provides a good separation of duties. It shouldn't be the same person that, posts your procedures in there that reviews it. It shouldn't be the person that, posts the checks, that reviews the report at the end of the day. The separation of duties is going to help catch those errors. I mean, I'm a human. I've definitely made errors. And I don't catch it until 2-3 days later. And I'm like, whoops, So having 2 sets of eyes on it helps catch it much faster.
Absolutely. Now, for our busy office manager, right? Reconciliation might feel like a bit of another chore. How do you shift that from a to-do list item to a proactive or rather protective mindset? I'm curious to hear a story, if you don't mind.
Sure. I mean, we're all busy, right? Like, honestly, name a person. I've worked from back office to front office. There's not a person in that office who's not busy. I'm going to be quite frank with you. There is everybody. It requires that whole entire team to make that practice run. So honestly, and I do call it an excuse. The excuse of I'm so busy is just that, right? It's setting a prioritization of what needs to be done. It doesn't take but 5-10 minutes at the end of each day. Run the report. Ask your provider, can you please run your production report? Or to take a look at this, make sure this is correct, make sure I didn't do anything. And again, this comes back to the calibration part of it, right? Going to your, having them run that report, having them take a look at it, noting any errors. You, as your office manager, you get it from your, person who just posted the, payments for the day. Get that. Does $800 equal $800? Am I seeing these 2 match? that prioritize that. That should not be something that says that can wait till tomorrow. That cannot wait till tomorrow. That needs to be done today.
Mhm.
I was actually just having a conversation with the practice manager about that. She said, "Oh, I really need to get to X, name it, right? You've got a chair down, you've got an assistant out, you got, a doctor who's always running an hour behind. Now you've got an angry person on the phone. I don't want to discount angry patients on the phone, but maybe say, I understand your issue. Give me a moment to look into this, back to some of those things, right? Because she's still going to be angry. And I don't mean to discount an angry patient or something like that, but it's twofold there, right? Like you're not wasting your time listening to somebody scream at you that you can't calm down and you don't even know what's going on. You don't even know why they're angry. So you get on the phone, you tell them, you know what, Mrs. Jones, I understand you're upset. Can you give me a brief moment to take a look at this? And I will call you back once I have a firm understanding. So, and usually once you do that, it reduces the time down, right? As far as things. So you just kind of have to like prioritize different things, shut down certain things. And sometimes you have to send it back to other people. As office manager and as women, we want to take all of it on, right? And so sometimes we need to empower others to do things and prioritize like the tasks that we need to. Our job is to keep that business running. Our job is to ensure we're not leaking revenue. Our job is to ensure that certain, KPIs are met, certain production goals are met. Our job is not to babysit.
Absolutely. Just, ensuring maximum efficiency and being proactive daily. Checking the procedures and the money, 5 to 10 minutes each day.
Absolutely. And schedule it for yourself. Ladies out there, some of you schedule spa time, schedule reconciliation time. You schedule a hair appointment, schedule those, calibration meetings. It's not any different. It's a matter of prioritization for efficiency.
And this is a top priority, definitely, that needs to take into consideration. Now, Courtney, adjustments. Adjustments are one of the most misunderstood areas in dental billing. What exactly is an adjustment? And why does this category need such careful oversight and separation of duties?
Yes. So how many of you have gone to, maybe I'm dating myself, I don't know. You've gone to the grocery store, or you've gone to Walmart or Target. They need, something and the price has been changed or you voided something. And the manager comes over and has to put the key in the register to make that adjustment, make that change to that, right? And that's to have a second set of eyes to see what's happening for there. Adjustments in the dental practice should be no different. The person that is posting your insurance payments should not be able to freely post courtesy discounts from the doctor. They should be two people, separate people. If there is a courtesy discount given in the office, which listen, I won't even get into that. We take a beat down enough, like on insurance, right? But if there's a courtesy discount given, there should be only two people in that office really who should be able to do that. One should be the doctor and one should be, the office manager for that. If he comes to the front office and says, I'd like to give 10% off, Mrs. Jones, that should require the front office manager to come over, to log in under her login, put that in, log out, and walk away. It seems silly, but it really does ensure, once again, that there's a separation of duties. Now, write-offs are a type of adjustment, right? Write-offs are twofold. One, there's insurance write-offs, your contractual obligations that you're required to do because you signed the contract and said, I love only getting paid $20 for cleaning. You agreed to that. That's a contractual write-off. The second type of write-off is going to be those that are stale accounts that are uncollectible. That also should require, a separation of duties. You should have an insurance, or an AR person who's going through attempting to collect these balances. At some point, they're uncollectible. Listen, if you've got an account sitting there from 2012, that's not collectible. Stop leaving it. stop leaving it on your AR, right? It's not collectible, write it off. But once again, this needs to be brought to a second person to state, this account's been on here since 2012. I need you to make this write off for me. And even, adjustments in terms of insurance adjustments, sometimes we get surprised and insurance has changed our rates for us. And, or we have primary, secondary, situations that happen. And there's certain systems that automatically put the primary, write off in there. And we need to actually maybe make a debit adjustment for it so that the patient's not improperly credited. So that's why all of these should have it. It should be a second person to take a look and validate. That's really what we're doing, is we're validating. We should have very specific adjustment types also, right? Like patient refund, insurance, contractual one, insurance refunds, doctor courtesy. They should be very well defined. I highly discourage the practice of miscellaneous adjustment. Because let me tell you, all kinds of things end up under miscellaneous. And then what are you adjusting? As a practice owner, you should know exactly why adjustments and write-offs were given and to whom. During your reconciliation, you should be able to quickly look through and, see that and be able to see, certain patterns that are happening or certain things. And if all of them are under miscellaneous, you have no idea what's happening. You're just like, great.
Is that a red flag to you if you see miscellaneous? I want you to tell me from a perspective of a senior fraud examiner really over here. What should an owner really look for in their software that says this doesn't look right?
Yes. So obviously I can't, give too much away, and I'm happy to, as far as doctors goes, but yes, it is a red flag when I see miscellaneous adjustments or when I see weird adjustment types. I want to make clear, you should never have an adjustment type that says insurance payment or patient payment. You should never have those adjustment types ever. And yes, I have seen them in there. So if you see those, that is a huge red flag. The second part to that is if you see an adjustment type that says Delta Dental and you don't take Delta Dental, you should question that. If you see, that let's say you're a Medicaid, practice, and typically you see the same payments come in over and over again and the same adjustments being made. If there's one that doesn't look like the others, you should probably take a look at that. And then any miscellaneous adjustment, take a look at it, ask questions. And a lot of times I get told, well, isn't this micromanaging? Absolutely not. This is protecting your business. This is understanding where your hard-earned money is going. And the second part to that is we all work for the dental practice. If we're giving the money away, that means you don't have money available to give raises, to get new equipment, to do the things that make our staff and our lives, happy and easier. So, when you're asking these questions, you're really asking them, hey, are you okay with not receiving that raise this year? That's what you're asking.
Absolutely.
And that typically puts that into perspective in terms of things. And even for yourselves, practice owners, when you are giving courtesy adjustments and things like that, do take that into account as well. It's not just taking, you're thinking, oh, I just gave away $500 worth of services, but it's so much more than that. It could be, maybe you needed to hire a front office person. And if you added up all those $500, courtesies, could you have gotten a new front office person instead? So you weren't having to give that $500 courtesy because you're running a little bit better. Would you have been able to purchase that new hand paste that you've been dying to get your hands on that will make you that much faster? So, kind of take a look at those.
Courtney, I was just curious, out of that 70% that you see, what we talked about earlier on, do you have just a ballpark reference for how much of that is generated out of this miscellaneous adjustment?
So yes, I don't have an exact number, but I've had quite a few cases that come through that the theft is not necessarily money in terms of like they're taking money from the practice, right?
Okay.
But the theft comes from unauthorized adjustments, giving away,
Mm,
services. In fact, I had a case where when I finished my case up, I mean, she was stealing money also, but there was other harm that was done to the
mm,
practice. And that's just it. Like it's harm done to the practice. That's what we're looking for is what harm was caused. And in the interview portion of it, this office was out of network with an insurance, and
mm,
she was giving them the rate at which insurance was paying them. And I said, well,
mm,
and I said, this wasn't just about the cash theft. I said, we noticed that you were, you know, reducing the amounts that you were charging for these services. And her answer was, well, that's just what you have to do for business these days. And I was kind of taken aback for that. And I was like, but that wasn't your decision to make. And that's ultimately it, right? The ultimate decision maker in the practice is the owner. And
yeah.
it is harmful to the practice when somebody else is making those decisions that is not the owner. The owner should be the one deciding if that's what they want to do. And if you want to honor it, that is completely, but you should have that choice to do so. And
Mm,
that's really what we're going for here, right? Is the choice. You're choosing what to do.
sure.
Somebody's not choosing for you. It's your livelihood and it's all of those that you support their livelihood. So that's the big thing.
Well,
So it's not necessarily that they're taking from that. Yes, we do see that as well. That's why I said if you see insurance adjustment or patient payment on there, they're probably taking money from you. But
wow.
those can be just as harmful as taking the money from the practice.
That's right. And this whole point about adjustments and what's misunderstood about it is really that it's a conversation about protecting your business. It seems
Yeah,
very,
100%.
minor. It's an adjustment. It's just an adjustment. But if
It's a
it's,
reduction in what you have the capability to collect.
yeah,
So you're thinking I did a $10,000 day, but when you take a look at all of what was, it's not able to be collected. That's just it. It's no
mm,
longer able to be collected. Maybe you now have a $5,000 day, and that's pretty big difference sometimes. Sometimes it can be smaller, but I mean,
yeah,
I have seen up to 50% adjustments on a day. That's pretty
mm,
big. You just killed your back. Your neck's hurting you. You don't know if your shoulder can take anymore. And you're thinking, that's okay. I just had a $10,000 day. I've seen the wind knocked out of sails because they like when they look at it and they're like, that was not a $10,000 day. I just worked so hard for, pennies on the dollar, in
mm,
terms of things. So that's it. Yeah, it's taking what is available to collect.
wow. Now, Courtney, there's some confusion between guidelines, policies, and
Yes.
procedures.
Yes.
Can you break down the difference and explain how each one helps a practice identify patterns of behavior before they
Yes.
turn into bigger issues?
Yes. So I'm so glad you brought this up. This is a great question. A lot of practices operate off guidelines, believe it or not. A lot. Well, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to do an investigation and I say, can you show me your manual, your procedures that tell me that this was not what you were supposed to do? And they're like, what? It was just known. That's not a procedure. Okay. These are guidelines. Guidelines are suggestions. Guidelines are, let's talk about like the patient experience, right? Like in terms of that. So it sets a tone for the practice. Like we want to be friendly, but at the same time, know your patient, right? It gives you the ability to adjust as needed, is really what a guideline is. You're muted, by the way. There you go.
Sorry, my dog is barking his head
Oh,
off right here.
that's all
Trying to
right.
get
Hey,
that
your
sorted
dog can
out.
come join us too. But so back to what I was saying, guidelines just set the tone for things. It's not necessarily a script, it just sets the tone. Treatment planning, right? Like and some of them are going to be a hybrid guideline procedure, right? Like, for instance, in a treatment plan, when you're presenting it, you always want to present it as this is the whole amount of the procedure that you're going to be responsible for, right? Not just we estimate. Like, and that is a really big tip that I will give you. Nobody's ever upset when you tell them the whole amount. Now, if you tell me you're only going to owe $100 on a $5,000 procedure, and then you come back and ask for $5,000, I am quite shocked and I'm quite ticked at you. But if you say this procedure is $5,000, should your insurance pay nothing, this is what you're going to owe. We're going to collect from you, right? But the guideline there is knowing your patient and how to present it. If you have a direct patient who doesn't want all the fancy fluff, who doesn't want to know everything, you're going to adjust to that patient. If you have a patient who needs to know every detail, line item by line item, you're going to adjust to that patient. So guideline allows for adjustments to happen in tone. A procedure is something that should be done the exact same way every single time. Now, dentists will completely get what I'm saying here. When they do a crown prep, they don't deviate 99.9% of the time in how they do that prep. They approach it the same. So a procedure for the front office might look like when we post insurance payments, this is exactly how it should look every single time. We enter the insurance carrier, we enter the insurance, check number if there is one, the EFT number. It's exactly that. It's step by step of how to do something and what is expectations. And then let's talk about like clinical notations, right? Every single clinical notation should have health history, should have patient's age, should have blood pressure, temperature, should have vital signs. It should have a diagnosis in there. Every single one should have those things in it. Now, the guideline portion of that clinical note is your tone, your interpretation, like those kinds of things. So there are hybrid ones like that, but the procedure portion of it is just, these are the things that are expected every single time. Now, the policy part of it is going to be a much more stringent, something that we're looking at. Policies they're not up for negotiation. And things that I think about that come off the top of my head, HIPAA. HIPAA is not a negotiation. You're either following it or you're not. Controlled substance policy, like how you do those. It's either done this way or it's not. There's no gray area. There's no middle ground. There's no interpretation. What time you must be there for work. That is a policy. If you're not there, that is violating a policy. And I also want to put on there, you should have fraud policies as well. You should have policies that state if you entered an adjustment without authorization, that is breaking policy. You need to define what is fraudulent in there. Payroll policy. You must clock in no more than 15 minutes prior to our first patient. They're not up for negotiation. They're not up for interpretation. This will protect you in several ways should something happen or go awry. And that is the difference between the three. And as I mentioned, in the very beginning, a lot of them operate off guidelines. A lot of them, right. I've gone into offices and they said, this is just how we've always done it. Can you show me where that's documented so I have something to reference so I can take a look? Well, no need. Or the other one, just do it that way. It's fine. Just do it that way. Well, can you show me, so I have an understanding of it? So it's about protecting your practice. And it also does, it creates efficiency and it creates scalability. There's no room for interpretation of what is and isn't acceptable in the practice, what is and isn't expected from an employee. Make sure you're defining all three of those. And like I said, sometimes they are hybrid, and acknowledge that they're hybrid.
Awesome. So absolutely, with regards to the guideline, I really appreciate the how you mentioned the tone adjustment. That's very easy to understand.
Absolutely, and, yes.
As well as policies. Now, I was just curious. I mean, if someone is adjusting their guidelines, that's totally fine. That's expected, right?
Absolutely.
Perhaps even encouraged. But when they start,
yes, know your audience. Know your audience, right? Like, I'm a very direct person, so I appreciate a direct person back. Whereas, maybe you're the person that says, you know what, hold on, can you take a step back, explain this to me one by one. For me, give me the total, tell me what the maximum is, got it, I'm good. Whereas maybe you're like, no, let's go line up. Please take those liberties, because that's what creates that patient experience, that warmth, that that patients keep coming back for. That's what a guideline is allowing to adapt so that your patients love coming to you.
So we're not mad at our our front office for adjusting according to the guidelines.
No, not
or
at all.
wearing off a little bit. But if they cross procedures and then, of course, policies,
yes,
then you can identify those troubling behaviors.
Absolutely, yes, and and procedures. Again, they're gonna be a 99% of the time. Just as I mentioned, with that crown prep, right? 99% of the time, it's going to be the same. Is there going to be a 1%? Absolutely, there's going to be a 1% that something doesn't quite fit the procedure. But that's just it. There should be a 1%, and it should be clearly documented as to why you could not, fit it in within the procedures of what you expect to see. In terms of things, listen, I've been in dentistry for quite a while. I've seen some wild things out there, and I'm like, wow, that's a new one to me too. But
Absolutely.
Document why it's outside the norm and why it couldn't fit in the procedure, the defined procedures for the practice.
And Courtney, just for the policies, right? When it comes to an ideal policy, do you think it's absolutely necessary for it to also document what will happen if the policy is broken?
Yes. Having a clear, defined punishment is not my favorite, word to use, but that's essentially what it is. Exactly what is going to happen should this policy be broken. You need to also look and see what is the severity of it. Breaking HIPAA to me is an incredibly, that's an expensive thing that can happen. So if your office is breaking HIPAA, those are thousands of dollars of fine. To me, that might be grounds for immediate termination. Sharing patient information with another patient that has no reason to have it, that can be very costly to the practice. Now, maybe the first time an adjustment got posted, without, having a second person come verify it or whatever your policy is that states it, maybe it's a write-off, a written one stating, hey, maybe you didn't quite understand what our policy here is, but let me make this clear to you. A second offense is going to, this is going to happen. Absolutely. Define exactly what's going to happen should you not follow these guidelines or procedures or policies in doing so. And if you find that somebody, like your team is violating these on a regular basis, evaluate them. Why are they being broken on a regular basis? Is it that there's not enough training for, that's happened? Or is it that your policies and procedures are so stringent that somebody cannot sneeze? Right. So I don't want to say go gun ho and, make every moment of it, but each area of your office should have clearly defined roles, expectations, and procedures, including hygiene, dentist yourself, especially with, if you have an associate, make sure there's one there, office manager. Each role should have, clearly defined procedures and what policies apply to them.
Absolutely. I mean, this is all coming back to ensuring that your practice is protected.
Yes. Yes. And see, the second part to that too is that somebody leaves, right? Like if it's documented,
SOPs. Yeah.
Yes, refer back to it. This is what this role does.
Because otherwise, it's all in that person's head, and when they're gone, so did your procedures.
Yeah. Thank you for saying it for me, so I did not have to.
Absolutely. Now, Courtney, many owners hesitate to add structure because they do worry that it'll feel restrictive, right? But in your experience, why do employees actually want that structure, and how does that shift improve the entirety of the practice?
So, structure, people inherently want structure. I know that sounds really weird to say. A colleague and I were having a conversation, and we both worked at two different types of practices. We've worked for the dictator, and we've worked for the laissez, like everything's fine, like pushover. It was far easier to work for the dictator than the other one, believe it or not. And I'm not saying go be a dictator. This is not my lesson here. You knew where you stood. You knew what was expected of you. And let's talk about fairness, right? When you have structure, there's typically fairness. And fairness doesn't mean everybody's treated the same, okay? For those of you who have children, you will understand this sentiment. You cannot treat your children equally. You treat them based upon each child and individual needs. And so you're creating an environment that is fair based upon the needs of that role and that person. You're creating efficiency. When you have structure, there's no question as to what you should be doing and why you should be doing that. I'm not like looking around being like, what do I answer them? Did you want me to get that? Do you want me to do that? It also creates structure in terms of backups. If you have structure, more than one person will know how to fill a role and will be able to step in for that other person because there's uniformity and structure. So if I'm out for the day, maybe even a week, hopefully I've gone to Hawaii for a month, your practice doesn't shut down because that one singular person is not there. Your operations continue as normal. And then the other part of that is growth. You cannot grow without structure. And I don't just mean your practice. I mean individuals. Individuals cannot grow without structure. They need that structure to know how to, what is expected of them to go to the next level. My experience as a front office manager, I kid you not, I was a dental assistant. I had been with her for quite some time. Our office manager didn't come back one day. I was told, "You're smart, go figure it out." Talk about a lack of structure. It took me about 6 months, in all honesty, to figure it out, to do that because of lack of structure. Now, other practices that I've gone into that have had structure, I've been able to pick up their structure much faster, anywhere from, a week to a month for the full entire thing versus 6 months. So it creates an opportunity for growth, and it creates an opportunity for efficiency and fairness across things. So they want structure. I promise you. Give them structure. In terms of expectations. It will do a world of good for your practice.
I think everyone inherently wants to do a good job at whatever work they do. So what does a good job look like? That's basically, I think, this.
Yes. Yeah. What exactly? What? And I'm so glad you brought that up. The good job part of it, right? If you don't have structure, positive reinforcement is real. Positive reinforcement goes a really long way in terms of, creating even efficiency, also prohibiting fraud from happening. Because if you have, well-oiled machine that is working very well, and you have positive reinforcement that's happening and well-defined responsibilities and well-defined structure, it's very easy to say, Don, wow, you scheduled like a champ today. Like that was so efficient. That was so well done. I would like to see more days like that. Like that makes that person feel good. You had a good day. That person walks away thinking, I have value. I belong here. I bring something to the table. And ultimately, all of us bring something. But if you can't feel like you don't bring something, like, yes, everybody says you work for a paycheck. I mean, yes, we all need money to spend. But inherently, we need the warm, feel good, I bring value. That's why we're doing it.
Love this. Now, Courtney, just to wrap things out over here, if you could give us a golden nugget from this conversation, what would it be?
Go back and create a manual if you don't have one. And create those guidelines, policies, procedures. All the rest will fall in line. Being able to prioritize will fall in line. Being able to reconcile will fall in line. Being able to, stop the stale and to stop the revenue leakage will fall in line. If you have good structure, you have those policies, procedures, and guidelines clearly documented, the rest will fall in line. So that would be my nugget, is to go back and take a look at what you have. If you don't have one, create one. And listen, there's plenty of, AI out there. If you don't know where to start, that will help you do it. There's also plenty of consultants out there, professionals out there. If, AI is not your thing. I did have a doctor tell me the other day, I don't know how to use that AI thing. Fair enough. There are plenty of other professionals out there that can do it. Use the professionals. That's what we do. We're happy to help you do it. Use, what is out there and available in resources. And don't just think of those CEs as just, the ones where you go learn how to do a new crown. Some of those CEs can be in the efficiency of your practice.
Amazing. Absolutely. When it comes to the foundations, cannot be underestimated. The tallest buildings in the world that do withstand time are built on great foundations. So that being said, thank you so much, Courtney, for joining us here today. How can the people get in touch with you and the work you do?
Absolutely. So you can find me through Prosperident. You can email me. It's my first name dot last name. So Courtney.Staiger@prosperident.com. I'm happy to have conversations with you. I love to be able to give my information out there, tidbits. Find me on LinkedIn, Courtney Staiger. There's only one of me, so not hard to find. So I'm on most social media platforms as far as that, and it's Staiger. For that, as well as, you can go directly through the Prosperident website, click on there. There's also some real fun stuff. There's a Hall of Shame on there for anybody who likes true crime and bed by night.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Courtney. Now, the practices that protect their profitability aren't just the ones that produce the most. Clear roles and well-defined systems aren't just good practice. Now, if today's conversation resonated with you, visit insuranceuntangled.com/resources and download the episode guide for this session. And if you're ready to build a stronger, more profitable practice, book a marketing strategy session with Echo Marketing through their website, insuranceuntangled.com/MSM. Actually, I'm going to do that bit one more time. Book a marketing strategy session with Echo Marketing through our website, insuranceuntangled.com/MSM. That's insuranceuntangled.com/MSM. It's a smart way to uncover opportunities, improve growth systems, and strengthen the future of your practice. Whatever you do, make sure you take action. That's where the real growth begins. Until next time, take care. Cut.
Thank you so much. Seriously, thank you. This was wonderful, great. I really appreciated it. And you had such good questions. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Courtney. I know it was a little bit over 20 minutes.
That's all right. I'm sorry for keeping you longer, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for your time and amazing, amazing value that you have just shared with the whole community. So once the marketing material is ready from our end, we'll get in touch with you. And if you can share that with your network.
Absolutely. Ooh. I'm super excited too. So in fact, today, I'm supposed to be going down to DEO today. And was like, oh, are you coming down? I was like, no, I have a podcast to record first. I'll tell you about it later.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Courtney. That's amazing. Well, until next time then, take care.